Hello everybody, I hope you're well. Louis here, and I'm here to run through a top 10 Bybit scan with you and talk about the top 10 and how the top 10 how the top 10's working with the cradle zone and what the cradle zone tells us with this last little bit of buying that's come in and this bit of selling, and how we can use the cradle zone to help us get a sense of what's happening in the broader market. So let's get into it. So just a reminder, this is a Bybit scan, and we're just going to be talking about the cradle zone and how price relates to the cradle zone. And this is coming off the back of the 4-part seminar series, which we finished last week. So let's have a look. Let's have a dive in. All right. So starting with Bitcoin here. See if we can find my mouse. There we go. All right. So Bitcoin here on the Bybit contract. Now, there is somewhat of a downtrend here, but it's not really downtrending as price has started to consolidate. Carson, you have a bad echo. I'm not so far, mate. I think my microphone is fine so far. So that echo might just be on your side, mate. Oh no, there's a bit of echo coming through everyone. Okay, guys. I apologize for that in advance. I thought my... Okay, 2 seconds. I'll just let me have a look at my microphone. Okay, how's that, guys? Is that echo still there? Just let me know quickly in the comments. Is that echo still there now? Perfect. Oh, beautiful. Okay. All right, let's go. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Okay. Let's have a look. So, what does the cradle zone tell us? What does the cradle zone tell us about what's happening with price now? And what can we denote from that from looking at the top 10? Let's have a gaze. All right, so Bitcoin, we have not much of a down. We do have a downtrend, but price is consolidating. I can show you that, like what we covered in the course, just by drawing 2 lines here. But we'll have a look at the 2-day and the weekly. What is the cradle? So price is overextended from the weekly cradle zone here, but on the 2 weekly time frame, price is pulling in quite nicely. So what can I denote from that? Some good chat coming through here. What can I denote from that? We have a small candle in the cradle zone. It's not bullish or bearish. It is an indecisive candle. And what does that tell us? It tells us we've got a pullback on the 2 weekly. On the 2 weekly time frame, and it's nice and convergent. So there's still a trend. There's still a trend with Bitcoin on the higher time frames. What does it tell us here on the monthly? Oh, this monthly pullback was so perfect that it pulled back perfectly into the cradle zone, and then price came out. And now we have another 2-candle pullback on the monthly, with the cradle zone helping us work out how deep that pullback is. Awesome. And that's giving us a feel to how deep that pullback is into the cradle zone. So this could be setting up for a bit of a higher low here on the monthly of the Bitcoin chart. So can you get an idea of how the cradle zone is helping us determine the pullbacks and the depth of the pullbacks? But it's also providing us with this zone saying that on these lower time frames, like on the daily and on the 2-day, Bitcoin is consolidating and, if anything, in a bit of a downtrend. But on these higher time frames, when you go from the 2 week, I think you call it the 2 weekly time frame or the bi-weekly time frame, to the monthly, we can see Bitcoin is trending up, and it still has quite a nice trend. And the cradle zone's helping us determine all that. So that's what I use the cradle zone for when I want to analyze markets for the short term and the long term. Now and before we get off Bitcoin, now, as we learn in the seminars, we need price to be trending. So nice price trending either up or down. Now, with Bitcoin in the daily, we can clearly see that price is heading sideways. There are no higher lows and higher highs, or lower lows and lower highs. And we can clearly see that here on the 4 as well. Price is clearly sideways. So we cannot trade that if we're trend traders, like what we learnt over the 4-part seminar series. The cradle zone also helps us identify this sideways movement when it's just going wavy, like it's like crisscrossing like this. It can help us identify sideways price action as well. So another way we can use the cradle zone to help us determine what direction the market's going. Sam, sorry, I mean the fortnightly. Yes, I mean the fortnightly time frame. The fortnightly time frame or the 2-week time frame. That's what I mean with nice free-flowing trend there, bouncing in and out of the cradle zone like we were. So there's nothing there for me to trade on Bitcoin coming into this evening session. Again, like I always say, if we see price running off, I'll be looking for cradle trades on the lower time frames, 5, 15, the 30, only if the 4 hour is trending. Okay, now let's look at Ethereum. I'll just go back here on the daily and let's look at the same thing. What story is the cradle zone helping us decipher? What story is that cradle zone helping us tell? So kind of similar to Bitcoin, but not as much of a deep pullback. We have the weekly here, and we have this beautiful weekly uptrend, and we can see, like what we learned in the seminars, we're looking for that bouncing ball in and out of the cradle zone. And let's have a look let's just admire this for a second. A boing, deep pullback, a boing. You can just see how price is starting to bounce in and out of that cradle zone. A bit of a deeper pullback here on ETH into the cradle zone. But if we look at this 2-week time frame, again, we're pulling into a bit of a level here, and it is pulling back into this cradle zone. We have a look at the weekly. We can see price bouncing in and out of the cradle zone quite nicely. So, and the MACD is converging as well. Now, remember, what we learned about the cradle zone is that it is just a zone. It's not an indicator to tell us 100% to take a trade, or it doesn't tell us 100% to go long or to go short. It is simply an indicator, and it's helping us determine the big picture of what the market's trying to tell us. Now we look at the daily here, sideways price action on ETH. Go to the 4, again, sideways price action. You can see price slightly dipping in and dipping out of this cradle zone, but no clarity. Okay, so now next to XRP, here we go. And again, we'll do the same thing. Remember, we're just trying to work out, from when we look at the top 10 and we're looking how price is interacting with the cradle zone, we're just trying to work out a broad picture. What is it telling us? What's going on in the market? It gives us a good overall view. Okay, so again, XRP is very similar. We have this sideways price action. So no clear trend, no higher highs or higher lows, or lower highs or lower lows. And we'll have a look at the 4. Again, a no clear trend. You go to the 2-day, same story. We'll go to the weekly, nothing. We go to the 2 weekly. That's a bit different. So here's one bucking the trend. We have a deeper pullback, but this is all just sideways. It's rubbish. There's no trend there on XRP. Nothing. There's no trend there on the 2 weekly. And if we look at the monthly, it'll be just as messy. Bang, 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 bang. No trend. Remember what we learnt about the bouncing ball in and out of the cradle zone. And we have to have clear trend. Keep it simple, stupid. If you listen to the seminars on Bybit, you'll know that is the golden rule. Keeping it simple. That's what we're doing here. ADA. See some bouncing ball in and out of the cradle zone here, helping us identify a downtrend. Not selling trends. Think downtrend, uptrend, no trend. So helping us identify a downtrend here. Let's have a look on these higher time frames. Very extended here on the weekly, but there is somewhat of a downtrend. It's more just selling off in a straight line. Now, remember we talked about identifying support and resistance levels when we zoom out. Now, if you look here in ADA, or Cardano, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely not exact. In fact, you could put 2 lines of resistance through here. Now, we say resistance is at least 2 touches. I like 3 touches. I like as a defined level as possible. And remember, if you haven't watched the webinar and you want to learn the whole Crypto Cradle course, just click the pinned message above. So here in ADA, remember we talked about in the Crypto Cradle course, when we zoom out, we can identify lines of support and resistance. Okay, so there's a bit of resistance coming in here. 1, 2, 3 2 touches here, and somewhat of a level through there, and there's definitely a level through here. So when I'm looking, if I wanted to short Cardano, I'm not really interested in it. There's obviously some resistance coming up into those levels. And we'll have a look at the 4 on Cardano, but I expect it to be quite sideways, still quite sideways. So go to the 2, go to the 1, go to the 30. Again, sideways price action, guys. And the cradle zone is, again, the cradle zone is really good at helping us determine that. It's really good at helping us determine trend. That's what we're doing as trend traders, just identifying trend. Okay. Now let's look at SOL with the same method. Let's go to the 2-day. Let's go to the weekly. There is a pullback here on the weekly, although that is quite deep. There is trend here, but that pullback is quite deep. That trend is a bit messy, is what I'd call it. Now, there's not enough data here on this Bybit contract to identify the cradle zone on the 2 weekly, but if we got a small bullish candle in there, or if that turned bullish in there, I may want to know about, but I'd have to see it after it formed and see what it looks like. But there's still somewhat of a weekly uptrend here, and it's just it's a deeper pullback. Look at the 2-day, we look at the daily, and this similar price action had a lot of selling coming through, and you can see that the more selling that's coming through, the cradle zone becomes wider, like expands. And have a look at the 8, have a look at the 4. Doesn't look too bad on the 8 there. We've had a little pullback, and we have a small bearish candle there. And let's just have a look if there's any levels. Now, we have 1, 2, 3 touch level, and then it kind of, you can almost extend that level through here a little bit. Can you see that clearly? You should be able to see that quite clearly. So I'm going to pop that in the watch list, guys, because if that sets up, is there a daily downtrend? Yes, there's a daily downtrend. The MACD looks like it's linking up. It looks all right. So I'll leave that in and we'll have a look. I'll put that in the list. Okay. Binance. Let's follow the same method that we've followed so far. Okay, look at the 2-day. Weekly, again, a higher low, pullback, could be forming to another higher low. So we still have a weekly uptrend here on Binance. If we saw a small bullish candle in here in the cradle zone, I would want to know about it. Yes, I would, because that could be a good cradle trade. Here's a 2 weekly, higher low. But for these lower time frames on the daily, on the 8, on the 4, there's not much there for me. I don't want to be trading these short if there's no trend, and there's just simply is no trend. It's messy, like what we've seen. Now, again, Cradle Zone helping us to determine that it's very thin, it's very crisscrossy, it's very undecided. Now on to DOT. Okay, let's do the same thing. 2-day, not much there. Weekly, a very deep pullback, so there's a lot of selling coming in too on DOT, and these moving averages haven't crossed over quite yet. Not that that means anything. Remember, moving averages are a lagging indicator. They cannot determine what's going to happen in the future. Moving averages happen after price has happened. If you follow the seminars, you know that. If you did the Crypto Cradle course, you'd know that. So again, nothing really to deduce here on the weekly. Just lots of selling coming in, but again here on the daily, we have this choppiness, and there's nothing to trade there. Not with our Crypto Cradle method. No, Bob, you have not missed much. You have not missed much, Bob. Okay, Luna. So again, we're just talking about how price interacts with the Cradle Zone. Luna, let's have a look on Luna on the 2-day. Have this. There's no trend here because there's no high or low. Let's have a look on the weekly. On the 2 weekly, nothing really there. Yes, there's a candle in the Cradle Zone, but there's no trend there. So let's have a look at the 12. Let's have a look at the 8. Let's have a look at the 4. And again, we have this nice bouncing ball down in and out of the Cradle Zone, but there's nothing there for us for now. Not yet. Maybe later, but for right now, nothing there to put in the list. AVAX. Again, let's have a look at the higher time frames and work our way down. What is the Cradle Zone telling us? Go to the 2-day. Go to the weekly. So, a deep pullback here on the 2-day. Let's just see how far that's come down. Wow, if you're a bullish AVAX, it's down almost 50%. To the weekly, and there's not enough data here to show us on the weekly, but it doesn't look like too much drop. But again, on the daily and on the 4-hour, there's nothing there. Again, we can see the Cradle Zone helping us identify that it's almost going crisscrossy. Price is undecided. It's not nice and wide. It's not. Don't have that bouncing ball effect. And finally, Doge. I saw Elon Musk did a tweet about Doge. It had somewhat of a pump, but not much. Doge would have had a nice downtrend here in the daily, except this spike really wrecks it. You know, we can't put a stop in here and an entry there. The candle's simply too big. But let's have a look. On the weekly, on the 2 weekly, just a mess through here, you know, like it, and really a mess through this section here as well. So again, using the Cradle Zone to identify what is happening and what is the overall gist in the market. And the gist is this. In a majority of the pairs in the top 10, through using the Cradle Zone, we can see that there's still a weekly uptrend, and there's still a 2 weekly uptrend. The trend on the 2 week time frame for Bitcoin is very clear and concise. But everything else is very messy. So I can't trade the Cradle Zone. I can't trade trends when there's no trend. The only thing that we found from this scan is Sol, which is probably one to keep an eye on. If you are in the southern hemisphere, it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Let's just have a look at this. We have price pulling into an odd level, and we have a small bearish candle there. And so what do we do as per the Crypto Cradle rules? We check the next higher time frame, which is a 16-hour, and we have a downtrend here on the 16-hour. we're pulling into an old level. Now let's have a look at the daily. And we have a downtrend here on the daily. And the MACD is really nice in conversion across these time frames. So as per the crypto cradle strategy, we want as much cyclicity over the time frames as we can get. So Sol is the pick. If that candle closes small and bearish, I want to know about it, and I want to work out if I'm going to take a trade there or not. I hope you're all well, and remember, manage your risk. And I hope you've had a fabulous year. This year is coming to a close, and I hope you have had a chance to use a crypto cradle strategy and see how it works in real time. So as always, take care and safe trading, and let's keep an eye on Sol for when that closes at, let's have a look. That'll close at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Thanks everybody, and take care.